Tonight, a major test for President Trump's agenda. The Senate pushing to pass what the president calls his big, beautiful bill, facing massive hurdles and a marathon debate. What lies ahead? Plus, what's in the bill, what didn't make it, and what it all means for you if it passes. Canada strikes back, announcing new tariffs on the U.S. after President Trump called off trade talks. A funnel cloud touches down overnight, and thunderstorms force a ground stop at a major airport. We're tracking severe weather and the impact it could have on holiday travel. The former president and vice president pay their respects to the Minnesota lawmaker killed in a targeted attack. Protests against a migrant detention center nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz under construction in the Florida Everglades. As the ceasefire holds, thousands take to the streets in Iran a week after the U.S. strike. The calls for vengeance against Israel and the new questions about peace in the region. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's star-studded wedding in Venice. But the big party is also sparking protests. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour is drawing huge crowds and now sparking a surprising new trend. And there's good news tonight about a town going above and beyond to help one family who needed it most.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a critical moment for the Senate, with President Trump's domestic agenda hanging in the balance. This was the Senate floor earlier today, with Republicans rushing to make changes to their 940-page spending bill, known as the president's big, beautiful bill, before his self-imposed July 4th deadline. But questions still remain, including what's in it, what's out, and what changes are needed to get enough Republicans on board. The president is staying in Washington over the weekend to help move the bill along. And tonight it's unclear if there is enough support to pass it. Our Ryan Noble starts us off tonight on Capitol Hill.
Tonight, the United States Senate inching closer to passing the piece of legislation designed to serve as the foundation of the Trump agenda.
The Senate will come to order.
Senators preparing to kick off what will be a lengthy process to pass what President Donald Trump has dubbed his big, beautiful bill. At this stage, final passage is still not guaranteed. The massive package includes the extension of $4.5 trillion in Trump tax cuts. It also provides hundreds of billions of dollars to fund the Trump mass deportation program. But in an effort to rein in government spending, Republicans are overhauling benefits programs like Medicaid and SNAP, also known as food stamps, including new work requirements and forcing reauthorization to receive benefits every 6 months instead of 1 year.
It's really a terrifying time.
Those barriers make Courtney Leader nervous. The mom from Springfield, Missouri has a child with special needs and relies on Medicaid. She warns the extensive authorization process alone could lead to deserving people falling through the cracks.
We're not talking about living this life of luxury with Medicaid. We are honestly talking about this life and death and how do we provide for our child in our home.
Her Senator, Josh Hawley, shares those concerns, but signaled his intention to move the bill forward.
The Medicaid stuff in here, I think, is bad, and I think we've delayed the worst of it.
There's still work to be done in the Senate to get the bill passed. But if it does, the identical package needs to be voted on in the House. And already House members like David Valadao of California are warning they will vote no. Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes in the House and have the bill pass.
Ryan, what steps are Democrats going to take to try to slow this down?
Well, Jose, Democrats plan to force the Senate clerk to read every single word of this more than 900-page bill. Now, that's a process that could take up to 20 hours, but it ultimately will not prevent the bill from being voted on. And when that happens, Republicans believe they have enough votes for it to pass. Jose?
Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill. Thank you. President Trump is staying in Washington tonight to help push the bill forward. Vaughn Hilliard is at the White House. And Vaughn, the president set his own July 4th deadline. Is he planning to stick to it?
Jose, it's notable that just yesterday, the president opened the door to being okay with this package not being sent to his desk until after that initial July 4th self-imposed deadline, almost foreshadowing this moment of uncertainty that is calling into deeper question the bill's fate. The White House has called this package a once-in-a-generation opportunity, but the president clearly still has some persuading to do. Now, he opted to forego a weekend trip to his New Jersey golf club ahead of this would-be vote so that he is in closer proximity to these Capitol Hill negotiations. Today, though, he did golf in Virginia with 3 Republican senators, including Kentucky's Rand Paul, who has remained a holdout, not committing to supporting it at this time.
And Vaughn, Canada announced new tariffs on the U.S. after the president ended trade negotiations.
That's right, Jose. Canada has said it will begin this week collecting a digital services tax from major American companies like Amazon and Google. The collection is set to bring in billions of dollars. Now, President Trump calling Canada foolish for that decision and suggesting he will announce a new, even higher tariff on Canadian goods soon. In response, Canada says it has immediately imposed a quota and then tariff on American steel coming into their country. Jose?
Vaughn Hilliard at the White House, thank you. Also tonight, we are tracking severe weather across the country and the impact it could have on your holiday travel plans. Aaron Gilchrist has the latest from Atlanta.
We're cooked. Look at that.
Breathtaking scenes overnight in North Dakota as several people captured video of tornadoes near Bismarck. Wow. The National Weather Service logging 9 preliminary twisters in the state. Just some of the severe weather across the country at the start of this weekend. Driving wind and rain tearing apart trees in Tennessee.
Well, it broke the tree.
And setting off a spectacular lightning display in Atlanta that also included torrential downpours, strong wind, and hail, complicating travel plans going into the holiday week. Thunderstorms forcing an hours-long ground stop at Atlanta's airport. The FAA even having to evacuate the tower for a time because of high wind. Delta saying teams had to inspect nearly 100 aircraft for hail damage in the middle of the night. FlightAware showing thousands of delays and more than 1,100 cancellations across the country today, raising concerns about the July 4th holiday ahead.
It's been a long day.
It's been kind of brutal, just trying to get back home.
The TSA expects to screen more than 18 million air travelers between Tuesday and next Monday, with questions about more potential delays still up in the air.
Aaron joins us from the Atlanta airport. Aaron, the severe weather threat is not over yet.
Jose, parts of the country will have at least a chance for severe weather over the next several days, including tomorrow, where the upper Midwest could see damaging wind and large hail. Jose?
Aaron Gilchrist in Atlanta, thank you. Turning to Minnesota now, where a private funeral was held for a lawmaker and her husband gunned down in their home in a targeted attack. Adrian Broadus reports.
In life and in death, Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark side by side. Their children grieving as Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, served as a pallbearer, carrying the weight of a loss that rocked their state.
Melissa was an extraordinary legislator, and Mark was her proudest supporter.
During a private funeral in Minneapolis, former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris among the nearly 1,500 people on hand to honor the couple remembered for their service and devotion to their children. The Hortmans, killed 2 weeks ago in what authorities have called a, quote, politically motivated attack. Federal prosecutors say Vance Belter impersonated a law enforcement officer and killed the Hortmans in their home.
Here in Minnesota, we have been the ground zero place, sadly, for racial injustice. The killing of George Floyd just miles from our church today. And now we are the ground zero place for political violence and extremism.
On Friday, thousands paid tribute. At times, the line stretched around the Capitol, where the Hortmans were lying in state.
I feel it's an honor to be able to pay respects to someone who served our state so well.
A pause from politics to remember how the Hortmans lived, their son, what the closing prayer Melissa kept in her wallet.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love.
Adrian Broadus, NBC News, Minneapolis.
Protests heating up in Florida today over a new migrant detention facility being built in the Everglades, nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz. Ryan Chandler has the details.
Get out, my swamp!
Tonight, legal challenges loom as Florida scrambles to complete the isolated detention center dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Deep in the Everglades, dump trucks today rolling right past hundreds of protesters condemning the development. What does this land mean to you?
This is my home.
Environmental advocates are suing DHS and the state, alleging the site did not get an environmental review required by federal law.
We are for the earth.
The land's native people central to calls to preserve this delicate ecosystem.
This is a place where we come for healing, where we look for our herbs, where we come to pray.
Protesters here draw the line at developing this delicate ecosystem, but no amount of chants or signs or honks is stopping this near constant stream of construction racing to finish this site by next week. New views from above show the dizzying pace of construction. Trailers and tents intended to hold thousands of migrants as ICE looks for more capacity to support President Trump's deportation goals.
Any sense that somehow this is going to have any impact at all on the overall Everglades there's zero impact.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis downplaying environmental concerns while the state Republican Party fundraises off the flashy Alligator Alcatraz name. Today's protesters calling the facility political, pushing instead for preservation. Ryan Chandler, NBC News, the Everglades.
To the Middle East now, and thousands taking to the streets of Iran, some calling for revenge a week after the U.S. strikes there. Raf Sanchez has the latest.
Tonight in Iran, mass funerals for military officers and nuclear scientists killed in the country's 12-day war with Israel. Tens of thousands taking to the streets of Tehran. The Iranian capital echoing with the wails of mourners and calls for vengeance. We want revenge for our martyrs' blood, this woman says. But despite the rhetoric, no sign Iran's battered regime wants to return to the fight. After those widespread strikes by Israel and the American attack on its nuclear facilities with B-2 bombers. President Trump saying Friday he won't hesitate to order another strike if Iran resumes enriching uranium.
Would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
But also insisting Iran wants to make a deal.
Wouldn't you think that they want to meet me? I mean, they're not stupid people.
Global attention now returning to Gaza, where the UN says hundreds of Palestinians have been gunned down trying to reach aid sites. President Trump predicting a ceasefire hostage deal potentially within days.
And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire.
And the Israeli military saying tonight it's killed one of the co-founders of Hamas. They say he was one of the last surviving leaders who held a senior position before the October 7th attack. Jose?
Raf Sanchez, thank you. Still ahead tonight, the massive wedding celebrations for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, and the A-listers turning out for their big day. Back now with a wedding extravaganza for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, the couple officially tying the knot in Venice, surrounded by big names and also protests. Molly Hunter is in Venice.
Tonight, protesters shooting smoke flares off Venice's famed Rialto Bridge. Several hundred people marching through the city's canals, yelling Bezos out of the lagoon and no space for Bezos. Protester Giacomo Scarpa says, as a Venetian, I want to defend my city from this mass tourism. Bezos is a symbol of that. Venetian Martina Vergana says, we're here to continue ruining the plans for this day. But nearby on the Grand Canal, plans for newlyweds Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez Bezos carried on, accompanied by security and lots of paparazzi as they and their A-list guests made their way to the final wedding bash at the Arsenale.
Even more off the beaten track, it is at the Arsenale, the city's old naval shipyard, still controlled by the military, and it is incredibly hard to get to for the public, for the paparazzi, and most importantly, for the protesters.
But in the face of backlash, the couple donating €3 million to local conservation efforts, and most Venetians we met shrugged at the spectacle.
This city is for everybody, for Bezos, for her
wife, and for you, for me, for everybody.
And Jose, every Venetian we spoke with brought up those multi-million-dollar donations to organizations near and dear to the city's heart. They see it as a real sign of gratitude. Jose?
Molly Hunter in Venice, thank you. We are back in a moment with a cowboy comeback, how Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour is inspiring a big trend. We're back with Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour, now back in the U.S. tonight in her hometown of Houston. But the tour isn't just about music. It's also making the cowboy look even more popular. Here's Shaquille Brewster.
This ain't Texas, but at Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour from L.A. to New York City and even London, it has kind of looked like it. In a swarm of denim, cowboy hats and boots, the Beehive taking over stadiums and Western wear stores around the country.
Non-stop traffic, you just had to say, excuse me, everywhere you kind of walked.
Including at family-owned Alcala's Western Wear in Chicago.
Honestly, it was like nothing we've ever really seen. Muchas gracias.
Where Manny Alcala says their sales hit record levels when Beyonce came to town.
What was that Beyonce effect here?
Honestly, it was bringing in a bunch of brand new people, new faces, people that never wore Western wear, that didn't know really what Western wear was, but they knew Beyonce.
Part of a trend seen nationwide. This ain't Texas, but at Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour from LA to New York City and even London, it has kind of looked like it. In a swarm of denim, cowboy hats and boots, the Beehive taking over stadiums and Western wear stores around the country.
Non-stop traffic, you just had to say, excuse me, everywhere you kind of walked.
Including at family-owned Alcala's Western Wear in Chicago.
Honestly, it was like nothing we've ever really seen. Muchas gracias.
Where Manny Alcala says their sales hit record levels when Beyonce came to town.
What was that Beyonce effect here?
Honestly, it was bringing in a bunch of brand new people, new faces, people that never wore Western wear, that didn't know really what Western wear was, but they knew Beyonce.
Part of a trend seen nationwide, where Western boot sales surged more than 20% the week after the release of the Grammy Award-winning Cowboy Carter album. Sales also jumped the week the tour started, and Chicago was a hotspot.
You can't find any of this stuff.
One first-time customer, Janae Smith, still coming back weeks after spending more than $400 there ahead of the concert.
Hats, we got boots the last time.
Even though the concert's over?
Even though the concert's over, denim is alive.
Plain and simple, every man needs a pair of cowboy boots.
Hard at work.
Including me, apparently.
So I think it's time to get you in the cowboy look.
Let's do it.
Manny got me concert ready.
So I got to get it measured.
Yeah, we got
From the hat and shirt.
This was one of our most popular shirts.
To the boots.
How's that Navy Gator?
I like it.
Let's do it.
Showing anyone can be a cowboy.
Ah, there he is. That's a brand new man. That's a real cowboy right there.
Cowboy Shaq.
A classic style enjoying a surge in popularity, but rooted in decades of history and culture.
My parents always said there was nothing like the 80s and 90s when the urban cowboy came out and everybody was running to be a cowboy. This was just like it.
The question now, is this a trend that's here to stay? Shaquille Brewster, NBC News, Chicago, or maybe Texas.
When we come back, there is good news tonight about a town that stepped up big time for this little boy and the total strangers that wanted to make his birthday extra special. There's good news tonight. So often the good news doesn't get as much attention as the bad. So every Saturday we highlight the many people who spread joy and love. And these are just some of those stories this week.
Oh, hi.
Talk about a surprise. That's Danielle Sutherland, a third-grade teacher at Old Bonham Elementary School near St. Louis. She thinks she's going to be interviewed by the school district. But her boyfriend, Josh, had a different idea. On the last day of school, her students asking a new kind of question.
Will you marry him?
Josh planned to include the kids in his proposal because he knew he couldn't leave them out.
Definitely having the kids' involvement and their enthusiasm was very helpful.
Danielle now gearing up for a summer of lesson plans and wedding plans.
This is something that I've been dreaming of not only my whole life, but since I met Josh, just knowing that he was going to be my person.
Take a look at this first pitch. That's 3-year-old Lewis Anderson, a cancer survivor who recently rang the bell. And behind home plate, his catcher, Parker Bird. Parker plays for East Carolina University and the Edenton Steamer. For Lewis, he's a baseball hero. And get this, they have something else in common. Both have prosthetic legs. For Lewis's parents, Sam and Mallory, it meant the world.
He's still an independent little guy, can do whatever he wants, and it hasn't slowed him down.
And for Parker, it was a no-brainer.
I'm a ball player, but hopefully he's going to be public speaker, Paralympian, ball player, all in one, whatever he wants to be.
And nobody rained on this parade in Springfield, Ohio. That little boy is 5-year-old Larkin Falk, celebrated by family, friends, neighbors, and even total strangers. Larkin couldn't have a typical birthday party as he goes through cancer treatment, so his mom, Julia, got creative. Larkin's family only expected a couple of people. Instead, they got hundreds.
What was that smile like for you?
Worth everything. And he still talks about it, and his smile was just ear to ear, just so big. He was just so happy that people cared enough to tell him happy birthday.
Once this parade began, it lasted more than an hour.
And then when Larkin gets a parade of hundreds of people with Super Mario and the police and the fire department, how do you explain that?
It's overwhelming in the best ways possible because we couldn't do it without our community. I wish I could give them all a hug. I wish I could just tell every single person thank you.
That's NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Hallie Jackson will be here tomorrow night. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and good night.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.